Welcome back to Everything I've Never Said. I'm Lakshata, and per usual, it's been a while because consistency is just not my thing. I just turned 17. I'm in the senior year of my high school, which is crazy and turbulent and everything it should not be because every single thing that was not supposed to happen this year has already happened. And I know that it's okay and it'll be fine, but this is the year where I'm supposed to do things the way I've always done and worked for me. But I'm busy experimenting and ruining things for myself. Anyway, in lieu of that, today I'm here to talk about a very vulnerable yet omnipresent theme in my life: expectations. Now, I've always found expectations to be this double edged sword for me because, on one hand, I suck and I'm incapable of doing things and I'm horrible at whatever I do. Now, that's my perception of myself, very distorted, probably. But at the same time, there's this whole group of people who just not only believe in my abilities but are simultaneously anticipating my success on the edge of their seats, hoping for me to achieve great things and be worthwhile. And it's a great reinforcement to know that you have someone having faith in you when you basically don't have any of that. And if I go into personal detail, in my experience, I've always been on the more fortunate and better side of the spectrum in terms of academics or merit or just my abilities in general. I understand how privileged of a position that is to be in, and obviously, it's a great thing because it puts you on an edge with people who are basically competing with the same things as you and who are also competing for the same things as you. But lately, these very expectations have become a problem for me, and instead of being my strength, I believe that they are somewhat turning into my weakness. The relationship I've had with other people's expectations of me, mostly authoritative figures, but also at times my peers or people my age, has been weird to say the least because I've always in the past been not just what I'm expected to be, but somewhat better than that. And that sounds very out of touch, but it's always been true. It's could be just because of conformity, it could just be because of fear, but practically it's always been the case. Lately, however, I've been feeling like I'm letting people down and it's bothering me. So I'm here to talk about it, as one does on a podcast that's basically heard by no people at all. As you do better and better and consistently improve, the bar for you is set higher than it was before. And that's okay because as you do better and better, you're not just increasing people's expectations of you, but you're also upscaling, okay? You're also learning new things. So, what's expected of you is usually sitting perfectly with what you're capable of as you're constantly upskilling and enhancing what you're doing. And it's crazy because that's how it had always been for me. And I don't think I've ever experienced failure to an extent where my innate sense of success is threatened. Like, I do believe it's very important to experience heartbreak or failure in order to create something worthwhile and something that's remembered for a long time. But that doesn't matter to me because I'm too scared of failure to reap any of its benefits. I'm good with success. And lately, I've experienced failure. So that's new, that sucks, and I hate it. And I would love to say that I'm learning from it and I'm being better, yada yada yada. But that's not true. That's not true in the slightest, and I hate it, and that's why I'm here today. The biggest thing that bothers me right now is not the fact that I failed. Okay, not literally, like in terms of what I expect of myself, but also the fact that I don't care about it, and I'm very nonchalant about it, and I hate it. Either I don't care enough for it, or it's just like I have this faith or overconfidence that in the end, when everything just comes crashing down, everything's right down the wire, I'll just magically be able to fix everything, get back on track, outshine people, be my old self, and that might happen. I don't know what's happening 10 months down the line. That might happen. But that's a big risk to base your future on, and I think I'm in denial about it and I'm not ready to accept that. I know this sounds very out of touch right now, but this is a rant. I'm gonna be really honest here, and I've been in the situation many times where it's like I'm doing things last minute. I'm not really working hard throughout the way I'm expected to, but I'm coming out being great and everything's working in my favor. That sucks because it's causing me to take things lightly. And now if I think about the context I come from, I have had this track record of being disciplined and ever present and just like this student who's easy to have, without a tinge of rebellion but a whole lot of fear, and I hate that. I want to get it all over every time I say I hate that in this episode, but throughout my life, I have disagreed with people multiple times. And people here could be anyone. It could be my teachers, it could be my parents, it could be my friends, myself, even. It could be something I'm seeing on television or whatever. But I have disagreed with people many times because I'm petty like that. And I have never openly, outwardly said to people that I disagree with them. And that's because of fear. I've always been this quote unquote easy child, and somewhere I feel like I have carried that persona with me throughout my life, and I still somewhat do. Conformity, blending into people and surroundings, even when I know that something I'm gonna say is gonna have an impact and it's gonna probably influence the person, otherwise, I don't do it. And so recently I ended up meeting people who think very differently from me, and that's just a part of high school, right? Meeting different types of people, being a different person with them. So meeting people who think differently teaches you to think differently with them. And I'm honestly very easy to influence, and I hate it so much. Oh my god, I said it again. But I am easy to influence. I'm easy to convince. I may pretend like the opposite is true, but I'm very, very easy to persuade as well. And any new thought cycle that comes my way sways me into this whole different perception of how things should be. And that may not even be right if it is taken in a moral or ethical sense. I just might agree with the people because they are giving me a reasoning. And my reasoning could be stronger, but I'm still gonna agree with them. Nothing that I'm saying makes sense right now. Now, if you're wondering if what does any of this have to fucking do with my failure to meet people's expectations, it so does. Because the only reason I've shown success at multiple occasions is fear. Like, I've never been exposed to failure as such, and my obsession with keeping it that way, my innate fear to never experience failure, to never be wrong, to never have to, I don't know, not do something as well as I expect to do it, has led me to develop this extreme moral code, this very impermeable moral code, that I didn't do one thing out of line throughout my life. And it's caused a bit of frustration in me because fuck it, I want to be a rebel. To a huge extent, I have had and I still do have a very simple life. Like, the things people go through, I'm going through none of it. I have a very calm life. It's basically like No Surprises by the Radiohead. But the thing that makes me study or work or be creative is the fear of failing, or the fear of not being everything that people anticipate me to be. Like, being all that. That's what I want to be. And I've lost that fear, and I feel like with that fear, I have lost my ability to do anything that I used to. And why is this related to me meeting or coinciding with a group of people who think differently? It's because they're fucking teaching me to take risks, and I'm horrible at taking risks, and I'm horrible at being out of line and breaking rules. and meeting with a group of people who take discipline and rules as something that they have to follow if they have no choice, but don't necessarily have to carry with them throughout everywhere they go, as a person who does exactly that, can completely change your train of thought. So, when I talk about expectations, I don't just talk about expectations from parents or teachers for marks or merit or discipline. I also talk about expectations from your peers to be interesting, to be fun, to be a risk taker, to just do it. And for a person like me who's always found it so hard to just do things out of line without feeling guilt, or to strike a balance between the right and wrong, the fun and the important, I feel like the coexistence of all of these traits, as in being disciplined and managing time well and being successful while also being rowdy and not rowdy, but like while also having quote unquote fun, is very difficult for me. And sure, at some point in my life, I'll need to strike a balance because I can't live without an innate sense of work life balance in my life. But right now, in the stage of life that I'm in, I can't really afford it, can I? And in the process, I think I've forgotten to attach the right amount of importance to the right things. And that's caused me to lose my quote unquote edge, if you will. Now, that is what my perception of where things went wrong in terms of my reaction to people's expectations of me is. And I do realize the truth could be vastly different. I really don't know. But I do agree that fear can and does incentivize me to do most of the things that. And my worst fear just came to life last year in the form of a string of consistent failures. Unfortunately for me, after a string of many victories. So that was like a complete dip. And from here, I'm going to transcend into my relationship with failure. So, to map it out, somewhat last year, I experienced this high, and it was the best period of my life. I was succeeding in everything I was doing. I was a winner. I was a track star. What the fuck am I saying? I was so successful. I was doing everything the right way. Everything was on my side. Everything was perfect. There wasn't any failure in sight for me. I was it. Everything was perfect. And I was doing a lot of things, maybe like 10 times more than what I'm doing right now, but it felt like nothing because I was so efficient, so quick. There was quantity and there was quality, and it was perfect. You can tell how much I miss it, can't you? And I took a little break and I went back to these very things recently, and everything is turned upside down. I feel like a lot of my skills are just lost. And I know that's not possible because you can't exactly lose skills, but I felt this loss of ability. And to some extent, my capability to just work and get things done, not quantity wise, but quality wise, if that makes sense. It's almost like I've forgotten everything I was formerly good at. In other words, everything that I based my purpose off, lol. But that's when the string of failures, as I call it, started. Because now I'm doing all of these things as I was doing last year, but now it's just so much harder to do them with the same efficiency as I was doing it before. Something that would have taken me last year maybe 25 minutes to do is taking me like 45 now, and I hate it. I said I hate it again. Anyway, so sure, the reason could be something semantic or psychological or just my lack of sleep and brain fog and whatever, but I feel like this inability to produce creative material the way I used to, and I still do, like there's been a shift. There's been a creative block, and it's been the longest I've ever experienced. And this is where I'm going to delve into my relationship with creativity in context of my relationship with both failure and expectations. I haven't written a poem in months. And because the reason for this is because nothing feels as good to me as what I've written before does. Like, no ideas, no words and sentences I'm thinking of are just it for me. Like, Nothing makes me want to pick up a pen or type in something and be like, okay, that's a good poem. I'm maybe comparing myself to other people, and that's always been a weakness of mine, but that's been a weakness of mine since forever. That didn't just cause me to stop writing altogether. And because I consistently kept writing, I also think I've gotten better in context of how I used to be. And this is the exact same reason I haven't put out a podcast episode in months, because nothing that I'm doing, nothing, no theme or topic that I'm writing about, nothing that I'm thinking about feels as good as it used to, or nothing that I'm doing makes me feel as confident to put it out for people to hear. And as I speak and as I record this episode, these exact same thoughts are flooding in my mind. It's like doing the same things that I did before in the same way that I used to is just impossible, and the quality of everything seems to be declining. I feel like I have lost my creative outlet, and the very loss of it has been causing me this frustration, and it's affecting everything I'm doing. It's causing me to fail, and me failing is causing people to be disappointed in me, and that's where I just connected everything. I think that's my theory of why I've become so inefficient lately, but I've figured ways to, bring my creativity back, not like I'm acting upon it because I suck, but I hope I can carry that on forward and get my quote unquote spark back. Another reason that I think has caused me to become very annoyed with the way things are, and by very I mean very annoyed, is the lack of room I have to do things the way I want to, which has been a very common theme this year. And this is going to be very vague, and you'll have to deal with it because I can't be specific for reasons that I can't explain. But I've always preferred to teach things to myself on my own, to learn on my own, ask for help only when I'm like extremely capable and unable to like figure things out. My way of problem solving is quite literally to fuck around and find out. Like, if that is taken away from me, I'm basically doing things in a way that someone else does, and it just makes me so. Like, it's like a teacher telling you to look right at her while she's teaching and not look in a book, because that helps you understand things better, and that's completely valid, logical, I understand. But it's also very generalized. Like, what if the way I learn is by looking into a book while you teach, and like maybe I form conclusions in my head on my own discretion? That shitty example didn't fix anything. My point here is that just the lack of opportunities I have right now to do things myself are actually causing me to unironically lose my mind. Because whether it's because of the fact that the amount of pressure that's being put on everyone my age or in the same stage of life as I am right now, or me, or just the importance that's been given to this specific stage of life is insane. You're in the senior year of high school. There really isn't a place for failure. There is no second chance. And it dictates a lot of what you do forever, and that's crazy. And it's a big risk. And I feel like it's causing me to do things exactly the way successful people before me have done, because if them doing it has given them this level of success, surely if I do it, I'll get it right. And there's nothing wrong with it, because there's nothing wrong with being inspired. There's nothing wrong with looking at people and being like, that is so cool. I'm gonna do that too. But they're not me. And the way I do things is the only way things work for me. That sounds very narcissistic in hindsight, but I just need you to understand that in reality it applies and it works. Like, I need to create, and I need to lead, and I need to come up with new ideas. And that's been the case ever since I was a kid. I could never just be doing things without having room to do something with what I know and with what I want to do. If that's taken away from me, I just shut down. And that's exactly what's happening with me right now. It's completely being taken away from me. Whether that's because of other people, sure, I can blame them, but I know it's because of me, mostly, more than it is because of anyone else. And I feel like creativity has always been my driving force, it's been my biggest strength. It constantly enables me to see things differently and observe things, come to a conclusion, do things my way. My definition of creativity isn't necessarily drawing or painting or writing or, like, I don't know, directing a movie. It's like, it's very there in my life. Even if I'm in a conversation with someone, I'm always trying to find different words for the same thing, find different phrases to express something. Maybe I heard an idiom, I want to use it. I'm going to use it so much until it's a part of my vocabulary, until it's the only thing I'm going to speak for a long, long while. And that is creativity to me. Even sometimes when I write, all I'm doing is trying to learn new words and not make any sense, but that works for me. That's how it goes. And it matters to me so much because there isn't anything that's more important to me than doing things the way I want, having room to be creative, having room to be original. I am a very conformity ridden person, but at the same time, I am also a very creative person, I feel. And because of that, doing things my way, doing things in a different way if I fail, but that different way is also my way, it's my driving force. Losing that is messing me up. Because I feel like I have always had an innate urge to formulate and create, and like I feel like my surroundings have been taking it away from me. I have been taking it away from me. If I have to prove this, I probably have 40 different examples lined up, but I just know that losing a creative outlet, either because I am just too lazy to do anything about it, either because there's been a lot of workload at certain points that has just caused me to prioritize different things. The outcome remains the same, that I'm going through a creative block like never before, and the frustration it's causing me is causing me to not be able to focus on anything worthwhile, and that's causing me to perform horribly. Yes, if you're wondering, yes, this episode was in fact written because of my horrible performance in school and how it's been bothering me so much, because that's not a common theme for me. Like, no, that's not me. But I've come to realize that failure for me isn't just failure in school, but it's also characterized by a general failure in life, a failure as a person, and it's getting on my nerves as it does. And I could go into circles about this for 40 more minutes. But it's a fact that I've been in a rut for the last 6 months, and I'm certain because it's because of me, but I know that I have to get out of it, partly because I have no choice, and secondly, it's the only way I know how to be. Like, there is no other way for me to be. If I don't have a creative outlet, I lose my mind, I get frustrated, I start being horrible. It's just that it's never been for this long and it's never been this hard to get out of, and that's scaring me because it's causing me failure, and failure is my biggest fear. I hope you enjoyed my 25-minute long attempt to rationalize all the mistakes I'm making. This isn't an episode, this is just me speaking, forgetting that other people get to hear it. It's just me talking to myself, and I hope you enjoyed listening to me being a very ungrateful brat for being careless, but thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you soon. That's so. Thank you so much for listening to everything I've never said. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you soon. I'm never recording an episode again.